There was a jingle that I always thought sounded angry at me, though it wasn't for a logo, but rather it was an advertising jingle. It's a jingle for a company in the UK that has a very iconic mascot. I still feel slightly uncomfortable listening to it, because I remember how it used to make me feel all those years ago. It's time. Sorry about that. Hello everyone and welcome to the second annual ALTV Halloween special. Or maybe it's third annual if you count this thing. As you just saw, this video will be about something I discussed in my previous video, which you should absolutely check out because personally I think it's my best video that I've made. In fact, there'll be a link to it appearing here right now. Yep, there it is. If you haven't seen that video and you just decided to skip the intro for whatever reason, basically I talked about how there was a specific advertising jingle that used to scare me. The reason for that being that I always felt it sounded angry at me, which I also believe to be a major reason why people are scared of specific movie logos. However, what I didn't mention was that the advertisements that featured the jingle had much more of an effect on me than you might think. The jingle might have scared me as a kid, but that doesn't even compare to what this company's mascot did to me. The title of the video doesn't lie. This mascot gave me nightmares. But not just one or two nightmares, no. This thing gave me nightmares for years. What was this terrifying creation that haunted me for so long? Well, I think it's about time I showed you. Be warned, you may be creeped out by this. Alright, here goes. The mascot that gave me nightmares was this. Okay, let me explain. So if you're not from the UK, which is probably most of you, you're likely to be really confused right now. If you are from the UK, you're probably also confused. But not because you don't know what this is, but why the hell would I be scared of this of all things? But for the non-UK viewers, this is the mascot for an insurance company here in the UK called Direct Line. As you can see, it's a red telephone with wheels. Terrifying, isn't it? So what about this scared me? The answer to that is, I have no idea. In fact, I don't think I was even scared of it at all. I just so happened to have nightmares about it for some reason. I mean, it's not like the adverts themselves were scary. Speaking of the adverts though, let's talk about the adverts. So, the year is 1985 and the Royal Bank of Scotland creates the UK's first telephone-only insurance company. The company would be named Direct Line, and soon after its founding it would launch its first ever ad campaign, featuring a mascot that was small, red, and drove around a lot. This mascot was, of course, Noddy. Wait, what? Yeah, as it turns out, Direct Line originally used Noddy as their mascot. What better way to advertise car insurance to kids? I mean, he drives a car, so I guess it makes some sense for him to be a car insurance mascot, but it still feels kinda weird. Obviously this wouldn't last, as having to keep paying for the rights to use Noddy probably wouldn't have been the best use of their money. And so, Direct Line got to work creating a new mascot, one which would perfectly represent what the company was about, and in 1990, this new mascot would finally be revealed to the world.
Look how much my house insurance has gone up.
Struth! You want to change companies?
Call Direct Line on 061 839 8877.
And a legend of British advertising was born. And that's not an exaggeration. This little red phone and the adverts it was featured in became a huge success for Direct Line, with them soon becoming one of the biggest insurance providers in the country, which still holds true to this day. And when you have a mascot as popular as this, one thing is guaranteed.
Merchandise!
The Direct Line red phone became so popular with viewers that you could actually buy the phone itself, and presumably it works like an actual phone. Yeah, imagine going to someone's house and the phone rings and it's one of these things. But it didn't stop there. You could get a money box in the shape of the phone house, which was the home insurance variant of the phone, and you could also get a toy version of the phone made by Matchbox that plays the jingle when you press one of the buttons. But what kind of nerd would own one of them? But speaking of the jingle, you may have noticed that despite what I said earlier in the video, there was nothing really scary about it. Well, first of all, if you are paying attention, you would know that I said it scared me as a kid. Secondly, this actually isn't the jingle I heard when I was a kid. You see, At the turn of the century, Direct Line, for whatever reason, decided to try and trademark the original jingle without informing the original composer. Can you guess what happened next? Yep, they got sued. And instead of just paying for the rights to keep using this jingle, they instead just opted to create their own jingle that they owned 100%. And this, my friends, was the jingle that terrified me as a kid. Again, most of you probably can't see why this was so scary to me, and I don't really blame you. Like I said in the previous video, I don't find it scary at all anymore. But when I was a kid, that horn section made me feel like Direct Line were angry at me personally for not buying car insurance from them. Like, I'm sorry, I'm only 5 years old, I'll buy it when I'm older, I swear. I think this is honestly the biggest reason I had nightmares about the phone. As I said before, the phone itself didn't scare me, but the fact I was so terrified of the jingle, combined with the fact I saw these adverts all the damn time, ended up being a recipe for disaster in my 4-year-old brain. This actually leads me to the next part of this video, and the part you've most likely been waiting for. What did these nightmares actually consist of? I had these nightmares 15 years ago, do you really think I remember? Well, unfortunately for me, the answer to that question is yes. Which means I just have to go into detail about these dumbass dreams. However, when I say I remember these nightmares, I don't mean I actually remember any of them in super great detail or anything. Off the top of my head, there's only really one that I can remember semi-clearly. In this dream, I was standing on my dining table, surrounded by a bunch of other kids for some reason. Then out of nowhere, the table collapsed, and those other kids just up and disappeared, like actually just blinked out of existence. Then, as I'm sat down on a pile of broken table, it arrived. The Direct Line phone drove into the room towards me. I then foolishly decided to pick the thing up and place it on my lap. Alright, now we get to the really embarrassing part. The damn phone tickles me to death. I'm not kidding. In every single one of these nightmares, pretty much every nightmare I had as a kid, I would always get tickled to death at the end. I have no idea why, but God, it was painful. What's even weirder is that I never actually saw the phone do it. It just used to sit there. Menacingly! So this was basically how most of these nightmares went. I'd be doing something random and then all of a sudden, surprise motherfucker, it's tickle time. There were some deviations, such as one where I saw a giant Direct Line phone glowing red on top of my wardrobe, which was especially scary considering I didn't even have a wardrobe at the time. And there was one where I read a story about a boy who was scared of a particular red phone outside his room. Damn, I really had a meta dream, didn't I? Eventually though, the phone would disappear from my dreams, at least visually anyway. What I mean by this is that a lot of the nightmares I would have at this point ended with me lying in bed, eyes tightly shut with nothing but a feeling of dread as I waited for the evil phone to get me. The scariest part was that I'd often try to scream, but no noise would come out. All I could do was lie there and accept my fate. So it's a good thing that most of the time I would wake up before anything happened. Basically, the objective of sorts of these nightmares was for me to wake up before the phone got to me, and more often than not, I was able to. As I got older, not only did it take me less time to wake up, but I felt less scared when having this dream and more annoyed than anything else. Eventually, I just stopped having these dreams altogether. I think the last time I had one was back in like 2020, and even then, I'm pretty damn sure that even the idea of the Direct Line phone being part of it didn't once cross my mind. Oh yeah, the Direct Line phone. That's what this video is about. Seems like it's been a while since I last talked about it. So like I said, I gradually stopped having nightmares about it, and that was probably down to the fact that both the phone and the jingle gradually stopped being used in Direct Line's advertising in the early 2010s. By 2014, they stopped appearing in adverts altogether, which would remain the same until very recently. Despite this and everything else I've talked about in this video, I became weirdly fascinated by this phone. I was already kind of obsessed with it back when I had nightmares about it, but now I could be obsessed without simultaneously being terrified of it. I mean, Jesus Christ, I even bought a plush toy of it. I bought a plush toy of an insurance mascot. If that doesn't scream obsession, I don't know what does. Thankfully, this interesting phase of my life didn't last long, and eventually I just started to see the Direct Line phone as what it is. A mascot for an insurance company. And that's pretty much how I feel about it now. Especially considering it's basically just a logo these days rather than an actual character. Oh well. So yeah, that was a fun video. I'm definitely not embarrassed or anything. I mean, I was a kid, who could blame me for having nightmares about a red phone with wheels? But anyway, thank you so much for watching this video. Remember to subscribe and turn on notifications, but most importantly, Have a happy Halloween. Goodbye.